Hasn't there been, when you look at the targets that have been set for Greece throughout the course of the year and where they are in terms of privatization and selling state assets and, well, the complete lack of growth in the country and the fact that, well, we know that they're still going to be in recession next year, why is there not more recognition or acknowledgement that it's going to be very difficult for them to meet these targets, if not impossible?
Yeah, I think, well, you mentioned privatization. If memory serves me well, they have done 400 million of privatization this year, and the target is 5 billion, so we're a little bit far from the target. Yeah. But I think on the reduction of the deficit, they are indeed far away from the target. Is not only due to growth, it's also due to the fact that the Greek government does not fully deliver on the reforms. About a third of the slippage of the deficit this year can be explained by growth, but the two other third is not growth. It's simply the Greek implementation of the measure, which is not up to the plan.
So all eyes are on Monday, a summit which is due to craft a multi-pronged approach. We're expecting a number of measures when it comes to the banks, when it comes to Greece and the role of the EFSF. At this point right now, how far apart are France and Germany?
Well, I think the fact that Sarkozy had to fly yesterday to Frankfurt tells you that there's a lot of negotiation still, which is not a secret. We all know that there's still a big divide. I think there is some agreement on the main issue, like bank recapitalization, but as often the devil is in the details, and I don't think there is agreement on this topic, for instance, on when you should do it, how you should do it, what will be the rules, and etc., etc. And so I think we're still far from an agreement for the time being. Because
you have right now, and you still have disagreement as well over the role of the EFSF.
Yes.
So how difficult is that going to be to resolve? Because you have France essentially saying that it should be supported by the ECB, and that would make the ECB, well, effectively the lender of last resort.
Correct.
Which Germany and the ECB oppose. This is a pretty big sticking point.
Well, I don't know, because the reason you mentioned that is what Bauern say. He's the finance minister. That's what he said yesterday before the meeting. Sarkozy never says the same thing, so I'm a little bit wondering whether it's really the French proposal to have the ECB standing behind the EFSF or whether there is something different. But very clearly, there are several options being investigated. One of them is this one. The second one is to use the EFSF as a guarantee instead of using the EFSF as a fund. And the third option is apparently also to have the IMF standing by the EFSF or funding the EFSF. So there are several options on the table, but that is what is worrying in a sense, because if you have several options on the table, it means that nobody has done the decision on which one you're going to take.
Is it going to have to be, at the end of the day, regardless of what happens at this summit, regardless of what happens in, say, a week or a few months from now, is it going to have to be the ECB?
I think at the end of the day, you will have to monetize part of the debt. The ECB will hate doing that, would not want to do that, but I think at some point, yes. You know, the S&P, the program by which the ECB is buying bonds, is already getting close to 200 billion euros right now. It has slowed quite a lot recently, but you're likely to go to 200 billion euros in the not-too-distant future. It's sterilized, so it's not monetization of the debt. But de facto, I think at some point the ECB will have to acknowledge that it's the lender of last resort, indeed.
And in your latest report, I know that you discussed, Stephane, the idea of the AAA fraternity, I like that phrase, being a shrinking group, right? So
yes.
With France, I mean, how much is their AAA status at risk?
I think if you really look at the fiscal metrics, there are countries, AAA countries, which are worse than France. So on that front, I would not think that France is the first one to be at risk. I think there are three problems. The first one is bank recapitalization, but you're talking about 10 billion. Is a small number. That's 0.5% of the GDP. I don't see why bank recapitalization in France would make France lose the AAA. And then you have two other risks: slippage of the deficit if growth is much lower, and we have election next year. And the third problem is a larger EFSF, which is, if you make the EFSF bigger, is an off-balance sheet risk for France. I think that's the two topics where France could be very much at risk at some point.
Well, thank you very much. Stephane Deo, Head of European Economic Research at UBS.